coffee in the top of it, like in a jar.
Hello, welcome to the Desert Blockchain Mini Conference on July 30th, 2016. We are at Gangplank Chandler in Chandler, Arizona, and we're going to be starting in about 15 minutes or so. So thank you for tuning in. You might see the video go on and off, and that's because we're working out some cabling arrangements, but thank you for your time and attention. Today we're going to be talking about blockchain, distributed networks, the crypto economy, addressing, and IPFS, along with some other blockchains like Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain, as well as the Ethereum blockchain. This morning it's going to be talks and maybe a few examples, and then we'll break for lunch around noon and come back about 1. We won't see anything during that time. Then about 1 we'll briefly broadcast while we set up our team hack attack. That's what we call it. So thank you for your time and interest. You can find more videos on the Desert Blockchain under the YouTube at the bottom of the desertblockchain.com page, and you can scroll through and see some of the other topics that we've covered in the past. So thank you for your time and attention. Let's see. So that's coming out of there. Let's try.
I thought about bringing a power cord. I stupidly didn't.
I almost did too, but I totally forgot.
I'm willing to bet you that we could probably find one around here
I
too.
just pulled it out and just forgot.
We're gonna lose this. Why don't we do that? Why don't we find a power cord? 70,000.
What would you say inside? Which is closer to the front ones? There. So those two spots, which is it's closer to this.
Marcus, it's not that I don't like you.
Already.
Man, chasing people away. It's those off-color jokes you're telling.
You know what? That's not going to work very well, Mike.
Not gonna work.
He's got a whiteboard there.
Well, let's just there's a power cord right there.
Yeah. That'll work.
I'm going to need somebody to take down the cords in a minute.
After you get them set up.
Okay, cool. So we kind of see where you're going.
Yeah. There we go. You fixed it, Catherine.
Did I? All I did was,
Get this out of the way.
I'm just gonna wrap, oh no, you're fine. Is this yours right
Yes.
here? I'm sorry. I'm just wrapping things up.
Yeah, we could, if we move back on the table, then we'll both be able to access this guy. Here, check this out. Just pop this up on a table right here.
Way to go.
So the image is reversed left to right for us.
Is it no?
No, that's my. Oh,
For some reason, Google Hangout just redid this. And it's on the Google Hangout, it's reversed. But then when you play it, it's fine.
really? That's kind of weird.
It is weird. But we're not going to be watching that.
Right.
Can I put your ladder up here?
Um,
Are you done?
that could be moved out of the way.
Okay. And what do you need taped over here?
Just like that cord going from there to there, take
Okay, so nobody trips on it? Or... Thanks, Mark. Pulls it out.
Just make sure those boards are all set. Do you mind dialing into desertblockchain.com and seeing if we're live streaming?
I think I might toss this whole bundle under the table. And then take it down here.
Yep, I can see it.
If I was sitting next to it, I'd be aware of it.
I'll do it here.
Much appreciated.
No problem.
Hopefully we got it all.
Sounds good.
It does sound good?
Yeah.
And are you seeing, let me see what you're seeing.
You just take it out on Facebook for the one.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. I apologize, we're a few minutes late. My name is Jay Carpenter, and I'm the founder of Desert Blockchain. And I really welcome you here today. This is Gangplank Chandler. And if you haven't been here before, this is a collaborative workspace. It's free to come in and use. You can come in and use these desks pretty much anytime it's open. And if this becomes like a place that you'd like to call home, you can apply to become one of the people that is part of the community that contributes their time and services and so forth to have a fixed desk here. So what I request we do is just kind of go around the room and introduce yourself, what interested you in being here today, and what would you like to get out of today? So, Rick, you want to start?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rick Stoddard. I work with a company called Coplex. We're a startup studio, and we assist businesses, funded startups, to build a business that uses digital products like web apps and mobile apps. So I'm here today. I always like to know what's coming, what's out there that's going to be the next big thing. And I know Jay very well, so he's actually chatted with me about this. I just hope to learn more.
My name is Mahesh Balan, and I've been here at the Valley the last 30 years or so, and spent most of my time working for City of Phoenix, PD and finance, and then last 15 years or so I've been in the CRM space with Oracle till about 2013, and then I started my own firm around 2013 with a couple of other. I'm hoping my partner will also come today. So we do a lot of work in the loyalty space. We work for automotives, industrial manufacturing. So one of the applications that we are seriously considering to kind of build from ground up is to kind of use the blockchain to build a loyalty-based, just a loyalty system. So I'm here again, like everybody else, to learn more We have been dabbling around in the Ethereum platform a little bit, but I obviously like to hear from all the other experts and see where
Awesome.
we're going with this.
Awesome. What's your opinion of Ethereum at this point?
Yeah, I know with all the controversy around, the hard fork and so on and so forth, but I still think, and again, my knowledge is not extensive, but I still think it is a robust platform for an application development kind of thing that we are looking at. So I still consider it to be a very viable thing, but we'll have to, like all things, wait and see. Some of the others, which seem to be far more successful, like Ripple and all that have, their own proprietary nature, seem to be locked in a little bit with the financial industry. So that's one of the things we have to decide very soon. We have kind of selected Ethereum as the platform, but now I'll probably still go with that. And I'm also looking for some talent to help me write some of these products. So
Great. Well, we're going to talk about Ethereum, the Bitcoin blockchain a little bit, and then we're going to talk about something called IPFS, the Interplanetary File System, which you might find interesting as an alternative to Ethereum.
Okay.
So, okay, great. Dennis.
My name is Dennis Stibbe. I'm residential faculty at Mesa Community College, teaching in our Network Academy, and I head up the Linux curriculum there.
Cool. And what would you like to get out of today, Dennis?
Blockchain is a technology that's going to be a part of our future, and I have some ideas how it might actually fit into the education space, so I'm here to learn more.
Cool. Great.
My name is Sal. I'm a student in UCC Linux class in Linux, learning Linux.
Saad, can you speak up a little? Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm learning Linux right now, so I came here to learn. It's a new experience. I didn't know anything about that one. And I'm also pretty much new in this country. I'm staying here 2 years now. And Dennis invited me to come here and learn more, so that's why I'm here. So I want to explore me.
Great. I took Dennis's Linux class as well. Learned a lot. And, so we're on kind of the same path. And what would you like to get out of today?
Learning new stuff, because this is completely new for me. So before Dennis, I didn't know anything about this kind of stuff. So I'm here to know more what it's actually about, so I can get into the industry and become.
Awesome. Okay, well, I've seen a few systems, cycles, and so forth, including the introduction of the internet. I have never seen anything as powerful, a vector as powerful as what's happening with the blockchain and crypto economy. And if you're looking for a place to learn, educate others, get employment and so forth, the appetite for people that know something about blockchain is phenomenal. So, welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Walt Wright. I've got a background in technology and in consulting. I'm here because I'm interested in learning more about use cases around blockchain technology, and then hoping that I can take that to jump toward a business case and understanding different markets that blockchain can influence.
So one of the things that I'm hoping to introduce to you today, actually before lunch, is a potential use case that you could go out like this afternoon and put into practice with records, medical records, legal records, and so forth, using IPFS. Now there are others in that space, but the canvas for opportunity here is phenomenal. So that's just to give you a little sneak preview. That's kind of the use case that I'm planning to introduce, focus on. And if other people have some sort of something you want to contribute, like in Ethereum, what you're doing with IoT, whatever, that would be awesome as well. And hopefully there'll be some other people that join us. But today, this is different than a traditional conference where you sit down and you just listen to people present. the idea is you're here, you've taken some time out of your valuable time to be here, and part of the richness of this is that we can all kind of collaborate and share what are we interested in, what do we know, what do we don't know, all that stuff. What do we? So that's part of what's available. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Chandra Lingam. I started, I'm right now doing online learning. I started a company just on online learning. I release courses on regular expressions on udemy.com. And my interest in blockchain is primarily, I'm hearing a lot of promise. Due to blockchain, I was lucky to find out about this group like a couple of days back. So it was perfect timing for me. My interest is in the potential for this technology. I'm hearing this distributed ledger is used in other contexts other than Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm interested in understanding more about the background about the technology and the math behind it, or how you can use it for other use cases and learn more about it.
Great. Cool. And we're going to be focusing on use cases that are outside of cryptocurrency primarily today. I mean, cryptocurrency is huge, but there's another meetup called just blockchain meetup, and you can find that pretty easily. They have more of an attention on cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so forth. So if you're interested in the cryptocurrency emphasis, that's the place to go. So, and basically between Desert Blockchain and the blockchain meetup, this is a pretty small community here in Phoenix. So the people in this room, for the most part, constitute the core knowledge base. I mean, there's a few others, but constitute the core knowledge base of this realm. So there may be another. If you double the size of this group, that's about how many people that I can determine have any kind of expertise or interest in this realm, other than just trading Bitcoin or Ethereum. So, all right, Mike. Go ahead.
My name is Mike Adjemi. I'm in transition right now, but recently led 6 teams for production support for a multi-billion-dollar prescription benefits management company. And, prior to that, ran my own business for a number of years, consulting in the space of SDLC automation integration and consultants across the country. So that was before I got recruited to join CBS. What am I hoping to get out of today? Well, I'm hoping to learn more about blockchain, get some practical knowledge by participating with you guys, because I have none. And I'm very interested in the scalability and the liability and the global security aspects of blockchain.
Cool.
I think those are the probably the greatest risk aspects that need to be addressed in order for this to be able to effectively spread into places like EMR, electronic medical records, and so on.
Cool. Okay, George, I'm gonna skip back to George. You'll introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name's George. I had a small distribution company before moving to Arizona. Then I studied at ASU and did some write about crowdfunding for crowdfunding and for my own personal stuff. And then I'm in corporate finance now, and I'm interested in the open and distributed ledger systems and protocols for payments.
Cool. And what would you like to get out of today?
I'd like to meet a lot of the people that are also interested and learn about some of the practicality of what we are or where we are now, and kind of like find out what the bridge is between kind of the ambitions and where we are now and what we need to do.
Cool.
My name is Marcus R. Brown. I'm currently a freelance front-end web developer, I guess front-end and back-end at the firm where I'm at right now. I was formerly technical director at Rainbow Studios, which is a game development studio located in Phoenix.
Carl Schultz.
What's that?
Carl Schultz.
Carl Schultz.
Do you know Carl?
No, Rainbow.
Was it the game company?
Yeah, but
No,
it was killed, and now and then it was resurrected
Oh, okay.
earlier this year. So
Okay.
I know a few of the older guys, but I don't know like the entire, you know.
Cool.
But yeah, I decided to go my own way and explore different things. I've been interested in dealing with blockchain technology since late 2010 when I first discovered Bitcoin. I got in kind of early and you could still mine on your CPU. And had a great time back then. Jumped in and out here and there. A friend of mine turned me on to Ethereum late last year, and I didn't dismiss it, but I kind of put it off to the side. I was like, it's an interesting idea, but you know, there wasn't a whole lot of information on it back then. And then a couple months ago, I took another look and saw where it was headed, so I decided to go ahead and jump in all the way. My interest is primarily on the development side. I want to build dApps. I have some ideas about doing some OTC type applications that facilitate transferring assets like cash, for example, using Ethereum as the blockchain as a backing for that, and a few other ideas as far as that goes. What I hope to get out of here today is to get other people's perspectives on the blockchain as a whole. You know, where people, you know, some of the ideas people have, where they see it going. Also to connect with other, interested founders or developers, and just kind of shoot the shit a little bit.
Cool.
So,
Welcome.
All right.
Catherine.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine. You can call me Kathy. Jay encouraged me to come to the blockchain event. I think you were talking to me about this almost 8 months to a year ago. And I did a little investigating, and I think we're at just the leading edge of what's going on in cryptocurrency on the planet. So it's one of those opportunities. If you see the opportunity, kind of jump in and learn as much as you can about it. I'm a self-proclaimed futurist, and I think that this is one of the things that are in its just infancy right now. You've got a millennial generation that's used to using one of these, and you know, in Japan they've been using this for payment for 7 years already, but we just can't seem to jump that hurdle here because of the security matters. So I know that there are people who know how to lock things down in that way, and so I'm just here to learn.
Cool. Catherine, what would you like to get out of today?
I want to know the variables in using blockchain and what the methodologies are that are currently being used and what the potential are in other avenues.
Cool.
Quick interruption. Kathy, have you heard of the Futures Institute? It's called the Futures Institute, based in San Francisco.
No, but I've been part of the World Future Society, and I go to their meetings locally here.
But you can go check out the Futures.
Okay, cool.
I visited them.
Uh-huh.
They have a whole section on just the impact of distributed ledger technology on all sorts, the world, and that might be of interest to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll look into that next time I'm in San Francisco.
Yep.
Very cool.
Okay. Good morning, Mark Goldstein. I had a career in engineering and engineering management for about 18 years, but now for 24 years since I've run a research and consulting practice, international research center. So I work for both nonprofit, government, and companies large and small, do market research, business intelligence. Had a big run in broadband work from 2010 to 2014 under federal grants. And now I'm back doing more medium and small projects than that. That was kind of a big data project I did for Arizona and Utah. I'm very involved in the Arizona Technology Council. I'm on the board and the executive committee, the Arizona Telecom and Information Council, the Arizona Bioindustry Association, and the Arizona Energy Consortium, really 4 industry verticals in Arizona. And as Jay well knows, I'm working on some public policy stuff with the Tech Council, where they always have a very good technology enablement platform year to year, drive changes in Arizona law and policy for the sharing economy, for crowdfunding at the state level, for venture funds that avoid Dodd-Frank regulations, for all for patent trolling in the financial arena, have all been recent issues. This year, I will be working with them on Arizona legislation to make it a friendlier place for virtual currency and smart contracts. There's really high bars for money transfer, registered money transfer entities that often cost $1 million or $2 million in legal fees. Some states like Delaware and North Carolina have been attacking that and lowering the bar for the more versatile and fresh and less exposed. I mean, we're not talking about creating banks necessarily. Some of you may be looking to, but there's just a whole tipping point where existing state and federal, but I'm only going to work on the state version, regulatory oversight tends to be roadblocks or speed bumps that I now have the Tech Council Public Policy Committee's attention on the matter, and thus we will try to mount Arizona legislation in the session that begins in January for this community. So I have a associate, Steve Epstein. Some of you may know, he and I overlap a lot in our IoT depth. He's much more blockchain and virtual currency knowledgeable and competent than me, but together we're looking to develop a practice area in my consulting practice in both IoT and fintech is a term that's a little more friendly than some of the more technical terms. So that's glad to talk to any of you along the way about all that.
Hey, Mark, in your opinion, is it beneficial for small companies like myself, who's a single member LLC, to join the AZTC? Because I've been pitched before, but
yeah,
I'm just curious, like, will I actually get any benefit if I were to join?
You would be paying somewhere around $350 a year.
Like that.
They probably have 14 standing committees.
Okay.
You know, and some of them are quite fruitful. There's a med tech committee. There's a business intelligence and data analytics committee. If you know, there's a lot of general events where you can network, you can learn things. There's a marketing conference coming up with the Business Marketing Association. Those are great, but you get more visibility in a niche community if some of those, you know, there's kind of a data center and infrastructure, you know. So I would say, and I can forward you an overview of the 14 committees, if you can find a good fit at the committee level for your interests, you can come into a group of 20, 30, 40 people and become known and know, and you might get the greatest value. I've been on the board 20 years. I'm just known in general, and it helps my business. But from the perspective of someone on the outside coming in, see if there's going to be a match in the committees. That's probably the best penetration vector.
Okay, well, thank you.
Jump.
I'm trying to set up some items for us to look at. Apologize for not having these things in place already.
So I think there's one other thing, Jay, and I want to direct this question to you, and actually the group. So one of your comments was from your point of view, you think this is one of the blockchain is one of the biggest things since the internet. I'd like to know why you think that, or why the group may think that.
Well, first of all, blockchain is a misleading term for this whole space. I think you should really look at this as like the crypto economy starts to capture the breadth of this, if that makes sense. And
one of the comparisons is not just generally the whole arc of the internet, but the point in history, 1993, when the Mosaic browser came out from University of Illinois, and you saw the hockey stick of use and adoption after the internet had been more university and segmented and narrow. So Bitcoin kind of provided that lead in, right, to the Merkle bags and the blockchain technology in general. But you look across like the financial industries in London and New York, there's like 40 big, consulting and financial entities all collaborating on the specs. And there just seems to be enough of a groundswell that it could affect many things. Of course, the financial transaction costs under these smart contract models may be reduced rather than 1% or 1.5%, maybe 0.1%. And so there's a lot of incentive at the top end and a lot of gathering forces and collaborating big players. So, I mean, I don't know if any of you are even with a big player, but that kind of tells me they got it and they're going to drive those applications down. So a little perspective from me.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Mark. I think that's a good summary of the multi-dimensions of this is, we're talking about financial interests, we're talking about controlling devices, we're talking about communications, we're talking about security, we're talking about connectivity on a global scale where anybody with not even an internet connection, but actually just a text messaging connection can start to interact on this platform. So you can probably tell that I've been in the tech space for some time. And when the internet first came out, everybody thought it was email. And I remember specifically people, including me, going, wait, why do I need email? I've got the phone. I can put a stamp on a letter and send something. Look at this new fax machine I've got over here. Why do I need email? Well, right now, this whole space is sort of categorized, characterized, colored by cryptocurrency. But that's just, and cryptocurrency is huge. Don't get me wrong. That's like completely disruptive in many, many different dimensions. But the power of this is that it's combining the velocity and the vector of money with data and programming. And there's an element of trust. So we'll go into that, like establishing trust among people that hate each other. That's phenomenal. The Bitcoin community is a global network where people are coming to consensus every 10 minutes. And many of those people would love to annihilate the other people. That's extraordinary. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that, and I'm going to show you a few other dimensions to this. Does anybody have any questions about that? Rick, does that
It's starting to paint the picture.
That starts to paint the picture for you.
What percentage would you guess, or the experts guess, of the world economy now is kind of embedded into digital cryptocurrency.
Let me show you exactly.
Okay.
That's a perfect segue. Did we plan this?
No.
Well, and it also depends. You
Mhm.
consider PayPal cryptocurrency.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's an alternative, you know, so that they're probably one of the very biggest players in virtual currency. It's not related to blockchain necessarily because it's held internally. So it probably also depends on your definition.
So
Sorry, what was the question?
the question is, what percentage of the world economy is currently in this realm of cryptocurrencies? Is that correct? And the percentage, this is a site you can go to called coinmarketcap.com. And this is how much, if you took all the cryptocurrency out there, the top 100 cryptocurrencies, it would total slightly less than $13 billion, which is nothing.
Right.
I mean, you pick any bank that's on the corner, major bank, and they're exchanging $13 billion in possibly an afternoon. So this is nothing. And that's the point is that this is just, I don't know, I don't want to use a cliche, but this is just the start of something that I think is very, very powerful. So let me scroll down this site and give you kind of an idea. So Bitcoin has a market cap of about 10.3 billion. It's currently at $658. And of course, Bitcoin was the initial, I would say, proof of concept of this entire ecosystem. And it's using some methods for creating consensus that most people consider very, very inefficient and are concerned about how scalable it is, which is called proof of work.
Is that number $10 billion? $10 billion. Is that a in circulation number?
Yes. Okay. So if you took all the Bitcoin that's out there, which is about 15 million Bitcoin, if you go over here, this is the number of Bitcoin that's in circulation. And the cap is 21 million Bitcoin.
Okay.
But it's going to take many, many years to go from 15 million to 21 million. But if you took the 15 million times the $658, it would equal about $10 billion currently. And go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, Jim. I'm going to forget if I don't ask this.
Sure.
It's a little bit of a sharp right turn. I apologize for that. The dollars that are funding the Bitcoin that are substantiating the Bitcoin value.
Mm-hmm.
This is a question, not an assertion. Are being paid by entities who are inviting individuals and companies to help them break an encryption. Is that correct or incorrect?
That is, you're kind of mixing several things together there.
In other words, as I read about this, I'm having trouble understanding who's paying for the funding of Bitcoins and why they're paying for the funding of Bitcoins.
Well, some of the people that are paying for funding of Bitcoins are sitting in this room because they're actually going to, there's actually ATMs in town where you can go and get Bitcoins. So there's a
Physical Bitcoins?
Well, there are no physical Bitcoins.
Sorry, I said, I'm a beginner, right?
You don't get the sound of money when you use
There's virtual wallets. You have, generally, the concept is of a virtual wallet where you have fractional Bitcoin.
You can think of it. You can think of it like this.
It's not actual, the paper itself doesn't have any value, but the
code.
The code, yeah, the numbers on the paper.
I like the US dollar.
I'm sorry. All right. So my question and my assertion is that there is a forgive if I'm in the wrong group, but it's important to understand your challenges as well as your opportunities. Right? Is that there seems to be a taint to the Bitcoin ecosphere, from my perspective, that involves a funding by entities who are trying to break encryption of others. Is that accurate? or inaccurate?
Let's right now, if you could break SHA-256, which is an encryption algorithm, the bounty is this, is $10 billion. $10.3 billion, which I think is what you're hinting at. So let me.
But I also think it's the reverse of the statement. You look at things like Silk Road, Bitcoin was popular as a currency that wasn't personalized. It didn't have the same traceability. So a small fraction of the Bitcoin activity has been utilized in illegal or shady activity due to its anonymity, but that's not the primary use of it. So some of the taint may be from its appearance in tainted marketplaces.
Okay, yes, I definitely agree with that. Thanks.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, what I was going to say was the same. The difference between most regular fiat currencies, but even there is black money that you can keep, right? I mean, you can. That's what the whole issue of money laundering is. In Bitcoin, you just hold a private wallet, which I'm sure Jay is probably going to talk about here in just a minute. So that's it. I only know, I don't know if Mark got it, or Jay got it, or Mahesh got it. I just know there is a private wallet. Somebody, whoever gets the key to that wallet, who they hold it dear to themselves in a little device, can open up that wallet and release some money from one person to the other. That's all we know. So that is the anonymity that it offers. Also could be misused by money launderers and others to get in. And that's where the whole concept of regulation of this, in terms of if I made money in Bitcoin, how should I report it on my yearly tax return? Because it is like anything else. If I traded on dollars, if I bought $1 and then sold it in an exchange, I'm supposed to pay some tax on it, right? Because I made some profit. So those are the kind of questions that are still up in the air.
That was defined in 2014. The IRS has come out and said that cryptocurrency is property. So you pay you pay capital gains if you turn it back into fiat.
That's right. So the only difference is that the private wallet is truly private. There is no, like somebody can just go and say, hey, I think Mahesh is a shady character. Let me freeze all his bank accounts, right? And they know it. They can go to the banks. They can go to whatever.
But the banking paradigm you're talking about is a centralized authority.
That's right. Here it is completely decentralized.
And this is the disruption. With Bitcoin, with Ethereum, with Steam, Ripple, all these are decentralized. There is no central authority. And that is part of this crazy disruptive realm. You were going to say something more?
Only that when we talk about blockchain, we're not talking just about currency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. There's really a whole world of smart contracts and logistics where, everything in a factory may have an RFID tag and really be a thing in the Internet of Things today. And through the supply chain, big data is generated, but blockchain is kind of seen as an overlay. They talk about the Internet of Tomatoes in agriculture, that, every tomato plant or tomato, will have an identity and a history. There are smart contracts. I think it's Vermont that's beginning to use blockchain in property records. There's blockchain applications in insurance. So the financial is the most visible and leading edge of the applications that we're seeing. But under that, there's probably a lot more that will happen that is not currency over time.
So, thank you. That's great points. What you're talking about, Mike, is like a fundamental challenge of our notion of money. You know, normally we think of money as something that some government issues, right? It's like, and a lot of people think that there is a fixed amount of money in the world. And that actually, you know, if I earn money, I'm taking it from somebody else. It's called a zero-sum game. But consider this. This is a purchase 10 coffee drinks, get one free card from First Draft, which is in Central Phoenix. So this card, if it was stamped, all 10 stamps, would be worth 1 cup of coffee, which has a value of, let's say, $1.50. All right?
I don't know where you buy your coffee.
Must not be a coffee.
Discount coffee.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, let's say it's worth $5. Let's go to the premium. And we've got other examples of this with Starbucks, with Subway, with
Points.
Points.
Airline points.
Yeah, exactly what you're looking at.
Yes.
Doing. With Southwest Airlines, with, you know, when you use your credit card, you get points, and, you know, hopefully if you spend enough money, your wife won't leave you and you can take her to Rome based on all the points. But let's focus on let's focus on this. So let's say this card's got all 10 things marked and it's worth $5. But let's say that we gathered 1,000 of these. We had a stack of 1,000 of these free coffee cards. So it's worth $5,000, right? Okay, theoretically. And we trust that First Draft is going to be there at least next month so that we can take this card and turn it in for a cup of coffee. But let's assume that we've got 5,000 of these cards. And I come over to you and I say, hey, Mike, this is my password. This is my access that will open up all 5,000 of these cards, or 1,000 of these cards. So if I give you this number, whether it's on a napkin, whether I send you a text, a QR code, or whatever, all of a sudden I've transferred effectively $5,000 worth of coffee from Jay to Mike. That's a hint of what's going on.
And Jay,
does that make sense?
Similar to that, there's an aftermarket for all the gift cards to you know, Walmart and this and that. there are people that will buy your $50 gift cards, which are a form of virtual currency, for $35. And so there's a brokered aftermarket in gift cards, which is a form of virtual currency.
Actually, it was a company in our town that got acquired. Big dollars. They weren't in business that long either.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was it?
I'm trying to think. It used to be in Flagstaff.
Can you speak up a little bit, Drew?
Yeah, so what he was referred to, there's actually a company that moved from Flagstaff to Phoenix a couple of years ago, and they were in that business of the gift cards. And within a very short time, they got purchased by a fairly large entity. It seems to me the buyout was, well, it was multiple millions.
Yeah. So if you can imagine, you know, combining this coffee card with your Southwest Airlines card, with your Starbucks card, with your Subway sandwich card, and all of a sudden that whole paradigm of creating rewards, or we'll call it exchangeable things that we trust to some degree, if you could sort of generalize that, that's what this is.
I'm getting an idea of the utility. What I'm suggesting is that because of Bitcoin, the funders of this technology and the and the reason for their funding of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is not only something that caused Bitcoin to build, but is also a detractor that can potentially chase away the major financial players because of the danger of involving yourself with companies or peoples or governments who are trying to break codes. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, go ahead. It's a bit broader than that now, because what Bitcoin did basically was prove that blockchain technology was viable on a larger scale.
Right.
And so a bunch of other Bitcoin-like coins spun up called altcoins that sort of like played around with different ways of managing a blockchain. But what came out of that whole space was big companies, including banks now, have started looking at the blockchain technology as ways to manage their own data. But that means that they're going to create their own private internal blockchains. You can create a blockchain with a network of computers. It doesn't have to be exposed to the outside world.
Interesting.
So, but you still get the same value of immutability and security and things like that.
So the nodes that comprise the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, there's about 6,000 nodes, just to put a number on it.
Thank you.
Of quote miners, although the effectiveness of those 6,000 nodes, the only ones that really matter are probably about a 5 or 6.
Interesting.
So yeah.
I'm assuming the banks are still running on AES 128. So you mentioned SHA 256. I'm assuming that's an AES 256.
No, I think it's something totally different.
Okay, it's not an
SHA. No, we're gonna
the AES.
We're gonna go a little bit. We're gonna go. Hopefully, if the cryptocurrency and cryptographic gods are with us today, I'll be able to show you an example of encryption and how it can be applied to records. Okay, but the banking is operating on something completely different.
Yeah, they're still at a really low.
Okay.
Level.
Yeah.
So SHA 256 is a crypto hashing algorithm.
Okay.
So basically, it says that you can apply that to this cup, for example. You know immediately if this cup has changed in any way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Go ahead, Mark.
And something many of you may have heard about Ethereum and someone kind of lifting $50 or $60 million. It was not a fundamental flaw in the Ethereum currency based on blockchain, but on the smart contract extensions embedded into it that Bitcoin doesn't have. So the currency was not cracked. A weakness in the smart contracts was exploited to generate a contract that probably shouldn't have been able to be. So it wasn't really the currency part that was broken in this first Ethereum theft that's being resolved. It was this new feature, the smart contract, that wasn't robust enough. But so far, the history of Bitcoin and Ethereum has shown a lot of robustness in the currency part.
I think it's worth noting that Ethereum actually just turned 1 year old today, and the world computer, the smart contracts that you're talking about, it's like completely new or recent to the blockchain space. Bitcoin kind of toyed with it, but Bitcoin core developers and all the people who are invested in this $10 billion market cap are extremely slow to move. And the guys behind Ethereum were like very quick to move and try out different things and concepts. So, it's one of those things where it was bound to happen.
Right.
But now that pain point's been passed. So, everybody can pick up and like learn from it and move forward. Right. So that, those sorts of things can kind of get detected earlier or just.
So a real simple example of a smart contract not available in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a transaction. You're satisfied with the promise of the delivery of product or the actual delivery of a product or service you then transfer some Bitcoin, you're in the mix. A smart contract would be, I'm going to buy XYZ from you, right, and authorize Ethereum payment. But when it arrives, it triggers that payment without your interaction. The contract is noted as fulfilled in the virtual space, and the financial payment. So someone did figure out a way to leverage a weakness, a zero-day fault, if you will, in the smart contract coding and enablement in Ethereum. And that's all the big news about its vulnerabilities. And smart contracts may continue to have zero-day faults that we're struggling with. As you indicated, we're 1 year into them. They are able to, they believe, fix this one, backtrack.
I think that the Ethereum platform's fundamentally flawed, and we can go into that later. But anyway, let's to cap this off. You could think of what happened with the decentralized autonomous organization that was $150 million, basically blind venture capital fund. You can think of that like some folks set up a new ATM machine out in the middle of the street, okay? And they said, okay, we're open for business, come use our ATM machine. But then somebody figured out, well, wait, if I just keep pressing this button, ding, 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 ding. I put in my card. I wanted to get $40 out. But guess what? If I keep pressing this button, it's just going to continue spitting out cash, and it spit out 50 million bucks. So that's what happened. But then the other notable thing is we're going to be talking about immutability of the blockchain. Well, guess what? They decided to turn the clock back. So they broke the immutability of Ethereum, the community did. And we basically have already experienced what I would consider, or others might consider, tyranny of the majority.
There's one thing, Jay. There is one group which called the Classic EPC, Ethereum Classic, which has gone with the original code of the blockchain. That was part of of the original Ethereum, and we kind of have a fork here in the road. Where some people have objected to that concept that even a massive majority of people cannot change the core code, which was Satoshi's original thing, right? That it's completely decentralized, and back to your point of immutability, and that is the strength of it. So we can't go away from that just because, like you said, you had a wallet, you put a programming language to control the wallet instead of a human being. There was a problem with the programming language, but still the fundamental concept is you can't all as a mob decide to come and say, sorry, we made a mistake in this wallet, but we're going to kind of fiddle things around and freeze that one wallet, which we thought is the bad guy. So there is a fundamental objection to that concect.
Could you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to scroll down.
Could I just ask one question?
One last question.
I know Mike started this detour.
Sorry. Mike's a troublemaker.
He is.
But danger.
But my question is whether or not he was making an invalid assumption. It sounded like he thinks that I think that there's a difference between mining and breaking the encryption. I think it sounded like he combined those. Mining is not breaking the encryption.
No.
Not at all.
And
mining is an essential function.
Misunderstanding I think I heard that was not really addressed here. And the other part of it is, in some ways, I think that the public wants to know that people are trying to break an encryption unsuccessfully because it actually leads to the value of strength.
Yeah, that's actually Walt, you're hitting on something. If you can break SHA-256, you can take this home. 10 billion. So every day that goes by that this global community of, I'll call them for this illustrative purposes, this global community of thieves
every day that goes by that they can't take that off the table actually adds to the robustness of Bitcoin.
And that's reflected in the increasing value. Risk, perceived risk would discount the almost steadily rising value of Bitcoin. So to Jay's point, over time, Bitcoin has become more valuable because the risk is perceived to be modest and decreasing.
Yeah. And another thing that you kind of hinted at, Mike, is I got from your comments, and I could be wrong, but in your mind, it seems like there's a concerted network of, you said, people investing in Bitcoin.
Community, whatever
The
you want to call it.
community, but this is different. The example that I use is, I used to go to the authoritative resource of knowledge was the World Book Encyclopedia, Encyclopedia Britannica, and then Microsoft's encyclopedia came along because they would hire PhDs to go out and write these things, and I'd go plagiarize and turn it in for my third grade class report. And then all of a sudden Wikipedia came along. And that's completely decentralized. It's actually a contentious method that comes up with the authoritative knowledge base. Because if I go in and I say, Mike, you're wrong, but other people say, no, Mike is right, then that's what lives on Wikipedia. So this whole space is something more akin to the Wikipedia phenomenon, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But so let's move on a little bit. And this is awesome conversation, by the way. I really appreciate everybody, talking about this stuff. And we're starting to touch upon the multi-dimension nature of this whole space. So if we, number one is Bitcoin, number two is Ethereum, and something called Steam. And by the way, Ethereum, about 36 months ago, was a white paper.
It was $1 in January, $1.
This
It was
past
about-
January?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
You mean the price instead
yeah,
of
that, it
12
was,
bucks?
so it was $12
Yeah.
now. It's gone
Yeah.
up to 16. I
Well,
went to the
20.
blockchain meet at that time.
Yeah.
Somebody, Brian was mining with his own machine, and it was like about $1.
Yeah. So the performance of these things has been amazing in a short period of time. But a 19-year-old fellow by the name of Vitalik Buterin wrote a paper at the end of, in November, December of 2013, saying, hey, we can build these smart contracts. And today it's worth over $1 billion in about 36, 37 months, whatever. So anyway, Steam is some sort of social platform. I don't even know what it is. Ripple, somebody else knows more about Ripple. Here's this Ethereum Classic, which is part of the DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, Dash, MadeSafe. Anyway, you can scroll down here. This is like the top 100 cryptocurrencies and altcoins and all kinds of stuff. I'm not gonna. Does that?
I just wanted people to see where when he was talking about Ethereum Classic, where it was on this list.
Yeah, it's right there on the 5th or 6th, right?
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that's a week old.
That's
exactly 1 week old.
Yeah, I was on a call. It was like an hour and a half call, and when we started the call, I think the DAO had raised like 53 million. In an hour and a half, they'd raised another 7.5 million. And so we started the call. Oh, this thing's worth 53 million. And then by the end of the call, I said, "Hey, folks, guess what? It's worth 60 million now." So it was unbelievably crazy. So let's get out of the cryptocurrency world. This is an article that Rick kindly sent me. days ago, and but this gets us out of the cryptocurrency realm and starts to take a look at it does a pretty good job of summarizing areas where the blockchain and this decentralized distributed network can be applied. Ed, welcome. You want to introduce yourself and say what you're interested in getting out of today?
My name is Ed Nicholson, and I am interested in getting the current status of many blockchain projects and working on setting up IPFS.
Oh, great. So you're getting deep into IPFS. Awesome. So this is like 20 applications, not necessarily in the cryptocurrency realm, that these distributed ledgers, decentralized technologies can be applied. So banking is one, payments and transfers, we've already kind of covered that. Cybersecurity, number 3. And I think not only are we talking about new realms of encryption, but we're also talking about a whole new realm of security, cybersecurity. And there's something called prediction markets. Anybody familiar with prediction markets? Okay, a couple. All right, so I assert, anybody have some money? A dollar bill?
Yeah,
We can get it back.
No, you're not going to get it.
It's going to come back as a penny.
It's going to be a virtual repayment.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be worth $1 million by the time you get back.
So I want to show you something in the realm of cybersecurity, because this is a big topic, right? And hopefully this can be seen. So basically in the realm of cybersecurity, we have white hats and black hats, right? Okay. I assert that there are, in my mind, cybersecurity can boil down into 3 things, 3 basic things. Number 1 is possession. Okay? If I possess these keys or this password or whatever, I own whatever's behind those keys. Number 2 is time. So if I have enough time, I can probably get the equivalent of this.
Hotwire the car.
Hotwire the car. Number 3 is incentive. So money or incentive or responsibility or reputation. Okay? This is the part that's missing from the white hat realm. The white hat is totally focused on the time and totally focused on the possession and has almost 0 in the incentive realm.
Other than perhaps bug bounties.
Bug bounties, that's right. The black hats totally have they're trying to get those. They know they've got this, but the big thing that's driving the black hats is this, the 0-day exploited markets. That's what's missing. And let me go through one other, thank you. Let me go through one other thing. In general,
The current state of cybersecurity is this. It's basically, you know, if we could just put the right policies in place, and if we could get everybody to take their empty cups and put it in here instead of here, then we're all going to be safe. But as soon as somebody takes their dirty paper plate and puts it in here, it breaks. That's the summary of the state of cybersecurity today in the traditional approaches. I think that is fundamentally flawed. There will never be enough policies, procedures, requirements, etc., to get everybody following the same set of rules to put the empty aluminum cans in the recycling and keep the banana peels out of the recycling. So, yes. Yeah.
That's in a world analogous to the Microsoft world. There are other elements active in the world of security that are based on design and principle. Anyone familiar with OpenBSD, and much of the design has gone into Linux, is familiar with the fact that you don't discover what a file is by trying to launch it. A variety of other design methodologies and concerns, often identifiable to crazy individuals, produce much more secure systems than often corporate design efforts.
Well, I think that's a very valid point. There are some designs that are more secure just in terms of their logic and their operations and so forth. But the point I'm trying to make is that the black hats have a huge differential in that they have a financial set of incentives that the white hats don't have. Unless you start to experiment with these prediction markets. Now this transcends cybersecurity. I assert that this also goes into what I'll call kinetic security. Things hitting things at a rapid pace. Okay? Let me give you a couple of examples. If there were prediction markets, I assert there would have been a higher probability of uncovering the disaster that occurred in San Bernardino late last year. There were people that knew that couple that allegedly did this, and when I say allegedly, there were people that knew that they were up to things that looked suspicious. But nobody had the incentive, or there wasn't a way for people to bring that information forward without actually jeopardizing themselves. The other thing, the incident that we just saw in Nice, where somebody took a truck and ran over at least 100 people watching a fireworks display, that apparently was also in a planning realm well in advance. And the only reason I'm bringing up those two incidents and in this whole security, cybersecurity realm is that what we're a dimension of what we're talking about with blockchain, with the ability to exchange monetary incentives in either a pseudonymous or anonymous, possibly anonymous fashion, could very well open up a new realm of white hat security, where the money or incentives start to counteract the zero-day exploit markets that are out there that the black hats are currently using. Okay, so that's a little bit of a digression, and you know, that's a little bit of Jay's soapbox, but
if you're really interested in this, if this piques your interest, take a look at something called prediction markets, because that's a much, much broader topic than just security.
So the examples that you gave, are you saying that the anonymity combined with reward will bring some information?
Could bring
information that
yes,
come forward.
Yes, absolutely.
But how would, but then you'll be lost in sea of information, right?
No. Actually, that's a great point, because all the information that's available gets distilled into price. You can think it is effectively a betting market, and you can think of it like sports betting. So if it's the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, everything, all the available information about the quarterbacks and the linemen and weather on the day of the event all gets boiled down into price, which is the odds.
And who sets the price? The market.
The market sets the price. But it's not just experts, because right now we generally rely upon quote experts to give us the information, but they don't really have skin in the game. When you're in a betting market, let's say with the Super Bowl, people have skin in the game. They're out there researching, they're out there, they have something to lose if they're wrong. And all that information gets distilled into the odds. The Green Bay's a 7-point favorite a week before the game. But then the quarterback of Green Bay gets injured, and all of a sudden they're a 7 or 20-point underdog. Because all that information gets boiled down and distilled into that, I'll call it price. Does that make sense? So imagine the same thing happening around, let's say, will there be a terrorist attack in the United States in the next month? Well, or in, let's say, October. And you can bet on that today. Well, if you can bet on that, then there's going to be a certain price that comes forth. But if somebody knows, they're going to push that price up, and we could just watch the price and say, oh, look at that, the price is rising. Maybe there's something in the works. Does that make sense?
Is big data analytics an appropriate analytical vehicle for, and I'm going off the res here again, but an appropriate analytical vehicle for determining a lone wolf attack?
Well, see, that is an approach that is taken today without the financial incentive and pricing markets that I'm talking about. Because there are companies in town today that are doing this mind-boggling analytics on just email patterns and all sorts of usage.
Social
media and stuff like that. And they're trying to sift out based upon these algorithms and stuff.
In our samples, we're not talking about one instance being voted upon for the U.S. No, this is localized. This is down to the community level.
Yeah, could be down to the community level.
Thank you.
Could be global too.
Yeah.
So there's scalability in these prediction markets.
Gotcha.
And believe me, this is not refined. This is still very, very raw in terms of how do you apply this prediction market theory to real life events. So anyway,
I wanted to say that as a methodology has two problems. First, it requires a highly theoretical and optimized market, very deep, very liquid, very informed, none of which is real. And also, it requires this sense of large data. And there's a lot of perspective that it's built into the pool data that is not translated up. So you have assumptions that are not necessarily supported by the data, or the data has assumptions that are not necessarily revealed. This approach, best exampled by the gambling that front ran Brexit. Brexit was an occurrence, but all the smart money was going the other way. And as somebody who's worked in financial markets, I can tell you quite frequently, if you're moving the same direction as the smart money, you're going the wrong way.
Well,
But
great points.
But as an alternative, we might look into something called super forecasting, and I forget the guy's name, but he recently wrote a book about how to optimize forecasting. This is different from finding the anomalies, if you will, such as the Ontario killers and the Nice killers and those kinds of events. But in terms of forecasting, there is a more effective, mathematically demonstrated, more effective approach. And the book is called Super Forecasting. I'm afraid I don't remember.
Tetlock.
Yes, Tetlock. He's out of the Bay Area.
So, again, this is not great points.
Yeah.
This is not anything that's, settled or anything else. I'm just saying that right now, these guys have 2 out of the 3 elements at work, other than a small amount of bug bounties. These guys have 3 out of 3. They've got the possession, the time, and a new element of incentives that's missing out of here. And part of this whole realm, and this might seem like a tangent, but in my mind, this is a really key item. This whole ecosystem of the crypto economy might offer a third element in the realm of incentives that's not there today for the white hat side. Might.
Actually, there is another example on the same, directly linked to the blockchain. I just discovered this a week or 2 back, is to do micropayments for the browser, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know how new browsers are coming out where they say, hey, you'll have no ads, right? And if you view ad, we'll give you a micropayment. We'll give you like a tiny, 0.01 cent. And that's a much better way wherein you are in control of all the stuff that is shown to you. And there is, if you can Google, there's a company called Satoshi Pay, which exactly enables micropayments for browsers. And you can, so it's kind of the same. How can you operate an incentive-based system? Because if you were to try to transfer 0.001 penny for every 100 million people, you'll go broke in the current systems, which is one of the biggest problems that we have even with money transfer, right? It costs a lot of money to do it, but if it can be really cheap with the blockchain, then these technologies become effective. And I think you're kind of indicating towards the same, in which, in an anonymous way, if I can get paid for some behaviors, and an aggregation of those behaviors can be of value to a lot of people, starting with very simple application of an advertiser.
So at the top of this page was something about the music industry.
Yeah.
I think if you scroll down, that'll be one of the 20 is micropayments to stream tracks or to own tracks. And, that can be transformative. The artists can play more directly in the market than through intermediaries. So there may be disintermediation in some markets because the cost of money transfer is so low.
Exactly. And I think that is the fear of the banks. That's why they want to get in there and take advantage of that, I would think, themselves rather than handling it out.
All right. So we could go on. I mean, that's just yet another dimension. But and I hope that at least got you thinking about a different realm of cybersecurity, since we hit on cybersecurity. And exactly what you're talking about, the ability to do micropayments, a new realm of that opens up an incredible new use case, set of use cases. So let's continue on down the list. So academic records and academia, and in about a half an hour or so, I hope to be able to show you something that might spark your interest in a new realm of record keeping. And
but there also happens to be a local firm, Parchment, whose expertise is exactly in the academic records, and it's started by Matt Matinsky, that's known in the venture community here, and was one of the founders of Blackboard Learning Management Systems. So there is a that's not a distributed record system in the way that we talk about them, but they are actually an important local startup in that very space.
What's it called?
Parchment.
So voting is another realm, and what I just talked about in terms of the prediction markets is another dimension, an innovation that might be added to voting. So bring up something here, and we kind of touched upon. We touched upon governance. Governance is an area that has huge opportunity for innovation. Now this fellow, Ralph Merkle, invented something called the Merkle tree, Merkle DAG, which is an encryption methodology that we currently use in Git and GitHub and what's that?
Bitcoin.
And Bitcoin and Ethereum and IPFS. This fellow, who actually lives here in Arizona, in Phoenix, if you, at least part of the time, my understanding, this is the most recent Epicenter Bitcoin episode that came out, which was an interview with Ralph Merkle, and he talks about prediction markets, and he talks about governance, and he talks about how he came up with, the Merkle tree and so forth. But if Merkle proofs, Merkle loops, I highly recommend you listen to this. It's
So Jay, will you perhaps, we're looking at a lot of stuff, put a list of links in a post on the blog?
Yeah, I'll eventually do that.
Jay, I'll put a list together.
Okay, that'd be awesome. So this is the more detailed description, but here they're talking about the DAO. But there's a lot of great stuff that's really profound about governance and about coming to consensus. And Robin Hanson, who's the leader in prediction markets, is mentioned in this episode. So also, if you want to be frozen and hopefully be unthawed at some point, Ralph's into that as well.
Yikes.
Yeah. So let's get back to the list. So voting, car leasing and sales, networking and IoT, forecasting, Augur. Augur is the leader in this prediction market realm. And the fellow who's one of the founders of Augur, Joey Krug, won the Peter Thiel Award for like the most innovative entrepreneur under whatever that didn't go to college or something. He was awarded $100,000 for his involvement in Augur. So there's actually a prediction market that's up and running. Online music, which gets into those micro payments, ride sharing, stock trading. The major stock exchanges around the world are looking at the blockchain as a realm of innovation.
for trading stocks. Go ahead.
The big optimization in that area is what's called T+3. When you buy or sell a stock, the market takes 3 days currently to clear your transaction. The markets are looking at this to eliminate that delay so that when you buy or sell a stock, the transaction will clear almost instantaneously. And they're looking at this technology for that optimization. That's going to be incredibly valuable as in terms of back office improvement in the markets.
Yep. Yep. And so stock trading, trading other assets in a more rapid, more efficient fashion is certainly on the table. Actually, even auditing. Deloitte, the accounting firm, is doing a lot of research into using the blockchain as a new method of auditing and creating consensus and distributed trust. Real estate, insurance, healthcare, supply chain, cloud storage. Storage, which IPFS, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, that's certainly a possibility. In fact, part of IPFS, the Interplanetary File Systems, monetary strategy is charging for storing documents on a long-term basis with basically, I believe it's like micropayments as well. So, energy management, sports management, gift cards and loyalty. Mahesh stepped out, but that's certainly a realm that he's looking at. And then government and public benefits. The interest and the appetite among the world's governments in this realm is unreal. There were 22 senators that created a letter to Janet Yellen of the Fed and the Federal Trade Commission and whatever, like last week, and they said, hey, we need to get more information on this cryptocurrency, blockchain, distributed ledger stuff. And, there's stuff going on here that's challenging the very foundation of all the regulatory realm that we've had in the past.
Yay.
So, anyway, the United Kingdom, the Australian government, so many governments around the world are looking at this area right now.
So do you see this kind of technology being adopted more quickly in other countries because of the regulation law, here?
Absolutely. The Isle of Man, which is some small entity, sovereignty that's in the UK, is very pro this whole realm, this whole regime. There are certain states, and Mark is working in that realm, looking at what's going on in the states. The state of Delaware. The governor of the state of Delaware last January, I think it was, went to an event in New York City called Consensus 2016. The governor, because they're interested, the state of Delaware is interested in positioning themselves as a friendly state to foster and encourage this innovation.
But also like the adoption of mobile phones in the third world in lieu of hardwire phones. You're seeing, especially in some African countries, more financial transactions from people transferring credits on their mobile phone, one person to another, than you are in the entire banking industry. Now that's not Bitcoin, but it is a form of virtual currency that in some of these countries exceeds the normal, what we would expect to be a banking market. So just like mobile devices and infrastructure was adopted in lieu of landlines, in the third world especially, there are adoption that's happening
They
here.
don't have the hard infrastructure that we've got. They also don't have the financial infrastructure.
Right.
It's important to recognize that in terms of nations with credit cards, we're fairly unique. Only the upper classes in other nations have credit cards. Typically, they have stored value cards.
Or debit.
Or debit, or in this case, now they have transactions through the phone
Right.
system.
Well, they actually use, it's my understanding in Africa, they actually use broadband as a form of currency.
Oh, wow.
So if you can imagine trading minutes like on your data plan as a way of paying somebody, that's what they are doing. Which, by the way, flies in the face of net neutrality. So, I won't go into that, but that is an area that I'm very passionate about.
I just wanted to point out that
That's
later.
more in the
Yeah.
cards.
Right.
Somebody will trade their coffee harvest for an X number of minutes because they know they can remarket those minutes
Right.
out of their plan to somebody else.
Well, the distinction between barter and currency and reward programs, all this stuff is being blurred.
Right.
Absolutely. And, what you're talking about, Mark, is we are seeing a phenomenon of over-the-top innovation that we really haven't seen since Skype came out and other VoIP innovations that sort of went over the top of all the legacy infrastructure. But it's happening in multiple realms. This is not just confined to cryptocurrency. So,
yeah, I just wanted to note that as far as countries adopting it, last month Switzerland moved to deregulate blockchain-based startups. There's a problem, filed a motion there, so they're trying to become the crypto capital, if you will, if they're able to. Switzerland.
So now all of a sudden you've got a whole new realm of competition that's going on among governments. And the competition hits the heart of their legacy regulations in many instances. So in order to be competitive and attract this innovation that they all want, they're having to go back and say, well, we're going to have to give you kind of a free zone on all this other regulatory stuff that we've had in the past. And so there's a big amount of tension that's going on right now. So let's see. Where are we at? We're about 11 o'clock. I'm going to switch gears a little bit unless anybody has something really, really want to say or investigate right now.
Let me just mention this one thing because you're on governments and public benefits. I sometimes write myself an email after waking up in the middle of the night, and so I can't guarantee the lucidity of this. Sometimes I might even answer myself. But two things that I wrote this in the last week were ideas about transparency for donors and charities as recipients.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was built-in taxes or surcharges that are paid to governments or surcharges that might benefit a third party like a charity.
Yep.
And don't need to delve. I just
No. That's a great point, Walt. That there's a whole new opportunity set of innovation around what we call nonprofits and charities, and also accountability around
accountability,
collecting and monitoring and measuring the payment of taxes, and as well as benefits. So that's part of what we're talking about in this government and public benefit. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and basically give you some concrete use cases that if we want to stay around this afternoon after lunch and do some hands-on stuff with this, we can. The format that I've been presenting on this is that we have these talks, and the talks have been awesome every time. In the morning, and we break for lunch and we create teams and we do some hacking. The problem's been that, the community is so small that has any kind of, ability around the technology. We just haven't had enough people to do the teams and stuff. So this afternoon we probably won't break into teams, but we can definitely do some hands-on hacking and stuff. But what I'd like to show you next uses IPFS, which is the Interplanetary File System. And I'm going to switch. So this is a dangerous demo here.
Is that another word for IoT?
No. No, it's the Interplanetary File System. I should go back and show you their website. So if you go to ipfs.io,
is there a password for the Wi-Fi here?
walk the plank, all one word, lowercase. So this is IPFS, and this is Bitcoin. And then let's go to Ethereum. I know you're here. So among these, certainly Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two most successful blockchain implementations at this point. What I'd like you to consider is IPFS is a more fundamental protocol that allows you to build blockchains, but it allows you to do other things as well. And the difference between IPFS and Bitcoin and Ethereum is they don't have the cryptocurrency driving IPFS yet. So as you start to look at the videos and you look at their GitHub and Twitter and all that stuff, you're not going to see a huge amount of, you're not going to see the big numbers like with Bitcoin and Ethereum. But in my view, IPFS is a platform or a protocol that you can take a look at that has the potential to do everything that the Bitcoin blockchain does and the Ethereum blockchain does, and even more. It's even more flexible. So that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. And let me go to the Raspberry Pis. So what I've got set up here are basically 3 Raspberry Pis. All Raspberry Pis have the IPFS on the Pis. Okay. So if I go into the terminal and I put in IPFS version, it'll come back and this is version 3.11. Okay, which is probably it's not even the latest version. But if I put in IPFS and I run the daemon, it's going to fire up a IPFS node. Okay, so it's running. If I open up another tab and I go IPFS ID, this is the IP for this particular node. So this is a hash of this public key. Okay, so it's like encryption on top of encryption. And it gives me some other information here. Let me fire up the other Raspberry, or I'll show you the other Raspberry Pi. This is another Raspberry Pi, and you can see that it's got a different setup. It's got different items on the desktop. And I'll do IPFS daemon, run the daemon on this one as well. And this one's doing something that I don't quite know why, but IPFS IP. This one does not seem to be connecting to the swarm. So I'm kind of throwing some different terms at you and so forth. I'm gonna stop and ask, do you have any questions yet about IPFS before I get too far down the technical rabbit hole?
When you say swarm, is that the IPFS swarm that exists from the organization, or did you create your own local swarm?
I'm running, I've got two nodes that I just fired up here. I think I'll fire up a node over here because I know these two will reflect each other on this Mac. But actually, you can start to connect to all the nodes around the world.
So it's a local swarm right now.
Over time, it starts to talk to other nodes around the world, and it gets bigger and bigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is that sort of an auto-discovery thing, or?
It's a distributed hash table.
But is it something that IPFS does itself over time? It will reach out, or is it something that you have to say, here's another node, go connect there?
No, it starts talking to other nodes.
Okay.
Over time. And,
So there's a discovery service somewhere.
Yeah, it's a distributed hash table, basically.
Can you set parameters to it?
Uh-huh. And I'm like a guy on a tricycle in this area versus the Tour de France people. Some of you could run circles around me in this whole realm of,
Yes, but a man on a tricycle can carry more baguettes than a man on a bicycle.
That's true. That's true. I'm your baguette delivery guy.
Well, pizza
Or pizza. Pizza, which
You're
is
the
actually.
baguette man.
So, let me see if I can fire up the IPFS on this thing. I'm gonna step up here.
I'm wondering if the Raspberry Pi has an IP address. It looks like.
I believe it does. Well, it doesn't have a static.
It may have a MAC address.
It's got a
but
MAC,
The IP address would be network dependent.
Well, the other address from the from your other node was before. So
I would say it does have an IP address, but it's dynamic, depending on network you're getting it up on.
but the IPFS ID doesn't seem to be picking up, and it's not picking up on the local host either.
So let me switch over to the MacBook. Fire up the IPFS. And then
Their English technology company recently.
Raspberry Pi manufacturer.
Oh.
Yeah.
And IPFS
I have to look that up. I don't remember.
ID.
The question is,
Okay.
will the Raspberry Pi people find it out?
So this, I've got two IPFS nodes running here on Raspberry Pis, and I've got an IPFS node running back here. And if I do IPFS swarm peers. Okay, it's showing, look at the last 4 digits, PMX2. And if I go back to the Raspberry Pi 1, you can see it's the same last 4 digits.
The ID.
Yeah. So this.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is the ID of one of these Raspberry Pis.
Wow, that's amazing.
And yeah, a long string. This is a machine-friendly ID, but not a human-friendly ID, which opens up a whole opportunity set in this realm in terms of addressing.
And that ID is present on 4 addresses in the address section.
Yep.
3 IPv4 and.
Yeah, actually all 4. All 4. So then, if I go back to the MacBook, you see I put IPFS swarm peers, and it's got that cryptographic hash ID, okay? If I go back to the other Raspberry Pi, and I put in keyboard. The dangerous demo section. Oh. So if I put in IPFS swarm peers, okay, now you can see that PMX2. Oh, I already did that. Sorry. Keep an eye on that ID up there at the top for the MacBook Pro.
XJD.
Yeah, XSJD. Okay, same ID. So what? Who cares? This is why you should care. Because these peers, these nodes, can talk to each other with or without the internet.
Like Zigbee or something?
Through whatever way they can connect.
So a local area network, Wi-Fi,
A local area,
Internet.
Bluetooth, Ethernet,
Right.
whatever.
Wi-Fi peers.
Wi-Fi peers. So if the Wi-Fi went out in this building, why is it that we would all be disconnected from that computer, that computer, that computer, that computer? That makes no sense. But that's the situation we're facing today. Our entire internet architecture is designed so that for this Raspberry Pi to talk to that MacBook, we got to go possibly halfway or maybe all the way around the world to get back to there. IPFS opens up the Russians, if they can crack SHA-256, then they can hack into this. But part of what IPFS, a dimension of it, why it's so awesome in my view, is that if the entire internet went down, we would still be able to work just as if we had internet connectivity to the backbone. That's big. The other part of this, because this is built on Merkle DAGs, it's sort of like Git on steroids. I could fly up in a plane, work on my stuff, come back down, resync, and all of a sudden there would be harmony among all the people I'm working with and with other nodes in the protocol. That's huge.
So does it maintain a copy of all the data in every location, or?
It doesn't make, it's not like Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain. It's not like each node contains a copy of the blockchain. This is more of kind of a synchronization function. And I'm not well versed enough on Git and Merkle DAGs and whatever to get into, deep dive on how a Merkle DAG works. But there's just a whole new realm of connectivity, collaboration, and synchronization.
Rather than all the data being consolidated on private servers, you get to the nearest verified copy of the data, but the data may be in 50 places, 100 places, 500 places, but you get to the nearest or most convenient certified, verified copy of that data. So it's a kind of distributing, Jay, if I'm right, of the data across many systems rather than there's one copy on,
yes,
a single server. There's dozens or hundreds of copies, and they have a hashtag that certifies the contents are unchanged from the version of the data or document you expect.
So this is the addressing system.
Yes.
What about the communications channels and protocols? Are those included in this whole IPFS realm?
Well, the communication channels are multifaceted. This is not just built upon HTTP or TCP/IP or all that stuff. It actually is flexible enough so that it can traverse all those different areas.
So if Walt and I set up IPFS right here and right now, and we were smart enough,
right?
Walt is, I'm not. But if we're smart enough to set this thing up, then using just the open source stuff that is available, he and I could distribute, share, and collaborate on files just utilizing our Wi-Fi transmitters.
Correct.
Yeah, the idea would be to set up IPFS, an IPFS swarm as a Git remote. And so you would have a relationship with Git as its remote location, but IPFS abstracts away the transport and the protocols so that all you'd have to do is address the swarm, and once you did that, the Git push to the remote would take whatever was given as available from your local IPFS name.
What about things like accessing database servers and stuff like that, right? For durable connections. Does the IPFS support communications protocols for things like Oracle or SQL Server, that type of thing?
You could build something like that on top of IPFS. So you could use this content farming ability to store the backing of your database, but then you would need some other kind of mechanism to, because content on IPFS is referenced by one of those long strings you see up there called a hash. So if you were able to build a mechanism, and people are already experimenting with this on Ethereum and smart contracts, you store a set of IPFS hashes that refer to maybe some JSON data stored somewhere, you know, I think MongoDB or something along those lines. And then, yeah, you create a sort of ad hoc database that you can reference and maybe even index using something like that.
And then we probably end up defaulting to like the whatever traditional database connection string and database or ODBC or JDBC or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, you would need some sort of discovery mechanism to I guess bootstrap yourself. And I've seen those projects. I'm not well versed enough to know exactly how they work.
They have something called IPNS, which is Interplanetary Name System, that allows you to take a cryptographic hash, like you saw, and then bind that to a other cryptographic hashes, so that you can have this like fixed cryptographic hash that then can be your reference point to talk to other cryptographic hashes or connect to other cryptographic hashes that adds sort of a mutability element to it. So it's like DNS.
Yeah, I'm just familiar with the variant that people have experimented with it on Ethereum, where they do similar to what Jay just said. They'll store a hash in a root hash inside of a smart contract, but then it'll reference all of these other IPFS hashes that point to various different content stored wherever, so they can just enumerate over those to get to all of the content that they want.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you instead of my example. Okay, good. Bear with me just a moment. Almost there.
And this thing is not dependent upon like for instance, the community of cryptocurrency nodes. No. This thing is dependent upon the network that I choose to set up, like my Raspberry Pis. Wow.
Yeah. So, let's add one more thing.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, before we, well, let's go with this. So this is a very common, simple website that you can go to, example.com, okay, right up here. And you can get the code, you can view the code for this. So here's the code for example.com, all right? And pretty straightforward. You can use this, and a lot of people use it to build things. Now check this out. This is that same HTML code that's been encrypted on IPFS. How do I know? Because look at this hash. I'm accessing this via localhost IPFS, blah, blah, blah. It's example domain. If I click on this, it takes me to IANA, Internet Assigned Number, Authority, etc. But how, and this is virtually identical to this, okay? And after lunch, if you want to see how this is done, we'll go through and we'll take example.com, run it through the hashing function, add it to IPFS, and you'll see that the hash matches.
I didn't understand what you were trying to tell us.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that this gobbledygook, this thing, is based upon the content that's here, the code underneath this.
The hash of the full content of that page.
Of that page.
Okay.
And if you change anything, if you change this from a period to a comma, you get a completely different hash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And it doesn't matter if I hash it or you hash it or somebody anywhere, anytime hashes it. If you use that same hashing algorithm, SHA-256, you're always going to get that.
You are showing us the vehicle for
No, I'm not showing you how to do that. I'll show you that after lunch.
Got it. You're just showing us that there's
I'm just showing you it's the same.
So is this sort of like just showing a compression, a compression string?
It's more than compression.
Okay.
So just trust me on that.
All right.
Okay. It's compression. It's addressing. It encapsulates the front of this hash. Gives you a hint as to what hashing algorithm was used. But here's what's really, really cool about this is if I want to make sure that I'm getting this website, let's say from Mike, all I have to do is look at this hash. If that hash is the same as whatever Mike said he was going to give me, I can be sure, unless somebody's broken SHA-256, that I'm getting exactly what Mike intended to give me. Okay? Now, let's say that Jay's grandma Carpenter, wants a new website. She wants this website. And so Jay, being the master developer that he is, says, Granny, okay, fine. You want to go to the Vatican? No problem. I'm going to give you example.com, and all you have to do to go to the Vatican website is click on that, and voila, you're at the Vatican. And Granny is happy. Good. Okay? So, she's happy and dandy. But then, evil Elio, who's about to walk in the front door, I'm going to throw him under the bus because he's an incredible security expert and whatever. Evil Elio gets into Jay's hosting service and does a little switch up. Evil Elio gives this site, and you'll see that the hash is different. This hash is different than this hash, remarkably different. Well, what changed? What changed? Because this looks just like this, right?
The URL for more information.
Well, so now Grandma Carpenter wants to go to the Vatican to see what the Pope's saying or whatever. She clicks on this, and guess what? They're playing piñata at the Vatican. So now, Granny,
with the Pope.
Granny's doing something like this. So evil Alio has swapped out the
You corrupted his
URL.
grandma.
You sent my grandma out to Tinder instead of her back. So I'm going to leave it at that because we're at 11:30, which is about the lunchtime break, and I think the pizzas are here. So
We could use this to determine, what's the latency for the encryption? Or for the hashing?
Let me show you. That's a great point, and let me hold off on your question. So it's not just static web pages that we're talking about here. Check this out. This is actually a video. This is on IPFS. This is a Merkle DAG of content. This video's been
Can actually be faster.
It can actually be faster. Yeah.
It's a bit.
Yeah, so this is, IPFS is inspired by Bitcoin. This is an actual movie that is stored using the cryptographic hashing of IPFS, and it's being played. And you can see that there's the set of hashes. The Bitcoin environment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was actually the Bitcoin community that you just saw there. Those little, that's right.
Except now they're trading fish.
That's right.
It's just the token that represents value, whether it's fish or whatever.
Fish or whatever, whales.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So if you want to play around a little bit with IPFS, you go to Neo, just search on NeoCities or IPFS. We'll show you. Was that what you were going to say, Scooter?
No, I just was wondering what you figured out to do with NeoCities, so this is it.
So you can see the exact terms and conditions under
Yes,
which
and Dennis has put IPFS up on
a transaction was
Yeah,
created.
that's
So
exactly right.
if Mike Adjemi's legal department is changing their terms and conditions, and there's a before novation and after novation, we can see that
Exactly.
just by virtue of the hash.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you had a 1,000-page document and you change so much as a period to a comma, it's a completely different hash.
And we don't have to store.
No.
Well,
that's
we
right.
do store the hash.
All you got to do is store the hash, and as long as it's stored on any one machine throughout the IPFS swarm, you can access it.
But storing that hash doesn't tell you if the documents continue to be edited. I mean, I may get a legacy version based on that hash, but not the most current version of the document.
Well, it's all hash dependent. So
Right.
if the legacy version is going to have one and only one hash,
Right.
that matches that.
But if
And
I
then
want the latest version,
If you want the latest, and this is where the blockchain comes in.
right?
So if you want this immutable ledger of changes to documents,
Right.
you can build it on a blockchain.
Okay.
And that's going to show you the step-by-step
Evolution.
changes with accountability as to who made those
Right.
changes.
Right.
But Mike Edgme's terms and conditions, right, for his purchase, which is virtually identical to Marcus's, Marcus's terms and conditions are different because he transacted a week later, after a novation to the terms and conditions.
If he's, let's say it's like on the latest Apple OS. Okay, so we all click on, I just did, update the OS. Click on the terms and conditions, which I've never read, never will read. But
Click wrap.
yeah, so if I want to make sure that I am agreeing to the terms and conditions, the latest terms and conditions that Apple has floated among hundreds of millions of people, all I got to do is look at that hash. If that hash is different, I'm not agreeing to the same terms and conditions that they floated.
what I was thinking of.
Does that answer your question?
Kind of, sort of. What I was thinking of is this, we're changing our warranty period. We're
Uh-huh.
going from a year to 6 months.
Right.
Marcus buys from xyz.com. He gets 12 months of warranty.
Mhm.
1 week later, the terms and conditions that are on that website have changed, right? Mike Adjemi buys. Mike Adjemi now only gets 6 months. How do you know that Mike Adjemi, who bought on the 30th, right, gets the 6 months, and Marcus gets the 12 months of warranty and service? It's because the T's and C's are encrypted. The contract T's and C's
The content has been encrypted.
are encrypted
Of that
and
warranty.
are referenced by the different hashes.
Yes. And if whoever's issuing that warranty comes, they want to do something and change it, and they say, well, Marcus, this is your warranty. He can come back and say, no. This was the warranty that I agreed to.
Right.
Undisputable.
And not only that, but if Marcus gets really torqued out of shape and goes to court, right, he can demonstrate that the key he has is fundamentally different and force the company to produce the T's and C's that created that, even if he doesn't have it. Right? He can subpoena the T's and C's that gave rise to that particular hash.
Yes. Indisputable proof of the content of whatever document or item you're talking about.
Right, for
And if when you add the private key portion of the cryptography, all of a sudden there's an undeniable, indisputable who changed what. Right. Because now maybe I gave somebody my private key, but I'm still responsible for that. So there's a responsibility anchor associated with that. So yeah, Jay, somebody monkeyed with this. You're saying it wasn't you, but you're still responsible because you were in charge of that private key. Sure. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, Sarbanes.
So inherently, does this have the ability to produce different differentials, or is it referential? Is it actually referring back to this concept?
No.
It's just inherently, mathematically, you could run it through the same algorithm or whatever, and it'll show you the delta.
The analogy is this. The paradigm today is if I want a copy of, let's say, Moby Dick, okay? I have to go to the library. If I can get through the front door of the library, I can get to that copy of Moby Dick. And, it can be changed or whatever. So that the key choke point is getting through the front door, but then once I'm through the front door, I've got access to all those different books. This is different. This is like if I'm not going to a library, I'm not going to a location, I'm going to the actual content. So if you run Moby Dick through IPFS and it's stored on here, it doesn't matter if you have it or Mark has it or whoever has it, you can determine that you're getting Moby Dick as that content, no matter whether it's in the library or wherever. So it's like the books. You actually want the book. You don't care if it comes from the library, the bookstore, eDolphins, or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
So we've been talking about cryptographic hashes and encryption almost as if they were the same thing,
right?
But they have different purposes, and
right.
We need to think that we're talking about a contract, for example. The hash will tell us if the contract's changed. The cryptography has the ability to tell us if the contract came from the person who said the contract came from. An example in a different realm is we just went through an issue with the Maricopa Community Colleges where we got some phishing emails telling people that they should change their passwords, and go to this link in the email. And they did, and you can log into HR and you can change the routing and account address for your direct deposit, which apparently happened to a couple of people. So they came up with this emergency urgent, everybody has to change their password now. If those emails, if we've gotten used to doing what Phil Zimmerman wanted to do decades ago with pretty good privacy, then when that email came in, our email client would say, this isn't a legitimate email. This didn't come from HR at NCC. I don't know where it came from, but it's not legitimate. You should just delete this email.
Could you say that again, please?
Sure. In what part? The whole thing?
Well, I did
As
not
far as verifying
understand
the-
how you got to the statement where you're verifying that this is not a valid email.
Okay. Because if I'm HR and you're an employee, you have my public key. I send the email to you. It's a plain text email.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
Here's the difference. This is talking about going to content, possessing content. What Dennis is talking about is going to location. Let me give you an example.
Oh, is that true? We're talking about verifying. Okay.
Let me just continue with this a little bit, and let's see if it resonates. We live in Phoenix, Arizona, right? Have you ever had somebody come in from out of town and you give them an address? Say, go to this address. Go to 56th Street and Camelback. Only instead of going to 56th Street, they go to 56th Avenue. Now, all of a sudden, they're in a completely different part of town because the location versus the content. So that's, and I'm sorry to interrupt this, but we're talking about something totally different here. We're talking about if you want to go to the church at 56 Camelback, you line on 56th Street versus 56th Avenue, so that church is that church upon.
You're talking about IPFS. Our current system, you go to mydomain.com, that's a associated address associated with a server. If suddenly that server goes down, then like your example, you go to, you think you're going there, and there's nothing there, and you've got nothing to go on at that point. You don't know where to go from there. It separates the location, in other words, location of the data on even multiple servers, to potentially an infinite number of nodes, so that data can always be accessible via the cryptographic hash, which at that exact location or the nearest location. It's distributed, it's multiple, and also confirm exactly the data you're looking for. You know, if there'd been a QR code on the corner of 56 and Camelback or 56 and 56th Avenue, and I put my phone up to it and it says, this is the address you're looking for, this doesn't match. So, oh, I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, so we can go through an example after lunch where we actually add some content to IPFS and see hashing works and all that stuff.
So, Jake, I just downloaded IPFS up in here. I can see the peers and all that.
Yep.
So I understand. So how do I so clearly for network, right? My node now, I started up the daemon. My node now should also accept this chunk, right? Like so I should be able to set some limit so that it doesn't occupy all 60 gigs of my disk. I mean, is there some settings that you can do to
you
say, hey, I'm just
part
of 10 gigs?
Yeah, you have control over what you bring in. You're not going to bring in anything that you don't want. You know, if there's some sort of illegal content that you don't want on your machine, on your machine. I'd like to introduce Elio Griecco, who joined us. Elio is actively involved with, I guess it's called Cybersecurity Valley now.
Yeah, they just changed. Well, you are too, but yeah.
Yeah, but Elio is awesome resource in terms of, you know, a wealth of knowledge around security, around networking models, around all encryption. So he's an awesome resource. And you know, I went to something called the Decentralized Web San Francisco on June the 8th and 9th of this year, which the posted on desertblockchain.com. But I highly, highly recommend you take some time and go through that Decentralized Web Summit, because it was off the charts gathering that are passionate about time for the web, the internet, everything that we have become accustomed to and rely upon. So, Haley.
The only thing I'd say is a specific statement. Calling it a whole new paradigm, a lot of these technologies are at least 30 years old. So these are actually old ideas. As trust goes back to PGP and GPG. And there's an crypto, I think it's by Stephen Levy, that talks about him. And then that was a historic moment because PGP was the first time in history that, first time in modern history that people had like individual crypto that was as good as the NSA and military grade intelligence. It almost disappeared and went to federal prison forever. The NSA was pushing hard to have him locked up for making their introduction of magnitude harder. And it was a big fight, and he very narrowly managed to stay. So that technology's been around for a while. It's existing. It's just it hasn't caught on to another big part of these technologies. You can invent the greatest stuff in the world, but there has to be adoption. Now, one last thing that I wanted to, what Dennis was talking about there, kind of the back and forth, how does that work? And what we're talking about, there are three key that we're talking about that are all related for any of these systems. Security of the data, which is what Jay was talking about, the cryptographic hashes. If I have a hash, I know when I get the data, I can do the same seriations. I can verify the hashes are the same. The data is the same data. There's a few small caveats. But for now, if you guys want to do a breakout and get into all the nitty-gritty mathematical details, you can cover that. But versus if the hash matches, then I got the right data. Now, the next thing is provenance. So I got the right data. But what does right mean? It means the data that hash. I got the data that hash. But where did the hash come from? Who gave me the hash? Did Jay give me the hash? Did some bad actor pretending to be Jay give me the hash? So provenance is a key thing. We don't really have that on the web today. We have a weak and poorly functioning version of provenance. It's called SSL. And if you do that in a breakout session, SSL any flaws when it was invented and the idea was proposed. The flaws were known, and we went ahead anyway. Anything better, but you can go with that. So stuck with me.
You want to step up here? And,
I'm almost done. Okay. So the final thing is confidentiality. So I'm sending you saying, here's this hash you need to look at. Is it fine that everyone knows that he's giving me this hash, or is this something only Jay and I transmitted and exactly what's being transmitted? Various cryptographic primitives come in the areas, and those are the three key things we're looking at. Each piece plays a different role. So IPFS, it gives you data integrity. It can give you provenance through a thing called IPNS. Not every provenance model we're looking at, but of that. Confidentiality is completely up to you. IPFS out of the box does absolutely nothing. It leaks data and metadata like crazy. So
the hash, you get the data.
Well, other people running IPFS nodes, bad actors, you know, if you want to get on the NSA, I'm less worried about them than Facebook and Google, honestly. But everyone seems to like bragging the NSA. We're operating a few nodes, they could easily set and who you're sharing with. That would be very, very easy. It does not handle that. IPFS is perfect for amazing job of distributing public data, but there are other lesser known that have been around longer, like Freenet, for that confidentiality portion that does things make it very, very hard to see who's sharing what data with who. So I keep those three key concepts in mind.
Awesome points, and we can talk about that more after lunch. But what I'd like you to keep in mind about IPFS is this is a very, very new project and initiative. And so you're right, there's a whole bunch of gaps in the use cases in its entirety. But there's a dedicated team of people and a community that's building around this, that's building this and adding some really interesting functionality. So we can talk about that after lunch. But your point about encryption, this issue of encryption is bringing up a fundamental shift and disruption between traditional centralized authorities like governments and banks and this whole new realm that we're talking about. So you don't have to look any further than the FBI Apple issues and, you know, a whole bunch of other recent issues to get an appreciation for what this new realm of peer-to-peer cryptography is opening up. I'm going to leave it at that. Any final questions or comments before we go to lunch?
So the IPFS is one of the fundamental blocks for blockchain, or where is the time blockchain?
So you can take IPFS and you can build a blockchain from it. It's not blockchain itself, but it gives you the ability to create your own blockchains. There's something else called Big Chain DB, which is actually an initiative that takes IPFS and creates kind of a blockchain in the box, as well as a database. So that's Big Chain DB. And some of those folks were also in San Francisco when Alien and I were there. And I haven't gotten deep into Big Chain DB, but that's definitely on my roadmap. So does that answer your question?
That's okay. Then in the Apple session, are we going to do a hands-on on these kind of things, or what is it?
Yeah, I think we'll go into IPFS and maybe take a file or two and add it to IPFS so you can see how the encryption works, and, creating the hashes and that sort of thing. I mean, again, I'm on a tricycle here, so but I think that's probably the best use of the afternoon, and you know, we probably won't go use the entire afternoon, but why don't we go ahead and break for lunch? And so it's 11:49 right now. Why don't we plan to reconvene at 1 o'clock? Yeah. And I'm going to stop the recording. And if you're watching this recording, it's
an hour plus for lunch. So yeah, probably, unless people are going out for lunch.
Okay, so you want to do 12:30?
I think 40 some odd minutes.
Okay, so at 12:30 we'll restart the recording and I just go through some exercises. All right,
I'm going out with that gas.
help yourself to some pizza.
Yeah. And let's
Thanks for tuning in. Join us at 12:30 Arizona time. And called the hack attack, but it really wouldn't be a hack attack today. So thank you for your time and attention. You can go to desertblockchain.com and see the videos from prior sessions. And you're welcome to contact me, Jay Carpenter. Just go to the contact section. It has all my contact info. And then